Police have confirmed an FBI raid at a massage business.
Police busted a massage parlor in downtown Franklin.
West Alabama Human Trafficking Task Force carried out search warrants at 3 massage parlors.
Nationwide operation involving hundreds of law enforcement agencies.
What unfolded in the story of Operation Coast to Coast isn't just another federal raid. It's an indictment of how deeply modern slavery has embedded itself inside ordinary American life. For years, people have walked past those dimly lit massage parlors in strip malls and quiet suburbs, assuming they were harmless, maybe shady, but not horrifying. The truth that law enforcement unearthed, women living in closets, passports confiscated, bodies sold to fuel an underground economy, exposes a rot that most people would rather pretend doesn't exist. This isn't the underbelly of some distant border town. It's the dark mirror of suburban normalcy. What makes this case so alarming is its scale and sophistication. This wasn't a cluster of independent brothels run by opportunistic criminals. The operation functioned with the structure and precision of a multinational corporation, complete with managers, accountants, transport coordinators, and digital communication hubs. The script's description of nodes in a transnational enterprise isn't hyperbole. It's the reality of how organized crime has evolved. Human trafficking isn't random chaos anymore. It's logistics, data management, and international finance. It's business, just evil business. The Chinese syndicate connection is especially telling. It reflects a global shift. Organized crime is no longer geographically confined. Networks stretch across borders using legal loopholes, fintech platforms, and shell companies to hide their money. The traffickers don't need violence to maintain control anymore. Bureaucracy and technology do it for them. A forged work contract, a confiscated visa, or an encrypted app can trap someone more effectively than handcuffs. The women trapped in this system weren't prostitutes making bad choices. They were workers deceived by a machinery that weaponized their poverty, language barriers, and immigration status. What's disturbing, and worth confronting, is how invisible this has been to the public eye. We like to think we'd recognize slavery if it happened next door, but the entire premise of this criminal model depends on invisibility. Those wellness centers hide behind cheerful signage and papered windows, blending into the landscape of middle-class convenience. People drive past them daily, sometimes even joke about them, but no one looks closer. That apathy is what allows trafficking to thrive. The traffickers count on the polite blindness of ordinary people who'd rather not ask uncomfortable questions. The federal response, over 150 agencies coordinating across multiple states, shows both how serious the problem has become and how complicated it is to attack. This wasn't a one-night sting. It was a military-grade operation targeting a shadow economy. What's striking is how the investigation mirrored the very system it sought to dismantle: massive coordination, secrecy, and precision. In a sense, law enforcement had to build its own counter-cartel to fight this one. The simultaneous raids weren't just symbolic, they were essential to cutting off communication and preventing the criminals from erasing digital evidence. But even with dozens of arrests and rescues, this is not victory, it's triage. The story's closing warning about the Hydra effect, cut off one head and two grow back, is dead accurate. Illicit massage businesses regenerate fast because the economic incentives remain untouched. As long as there's cheap labor, high demand, and weak local enforcement, the system will reassemble under new names, new LLCs, new managers. If the demand for commercial sex remains profitable and anonymous, someone will always find a way to supply it. Law enforcement can raid buildings, but it can't raid desire or desperation. Another uncomfortable truth: the American system indirectly enables this. Immigration loopholes, under-regulated small businesses, and lax inspection regimes form the perfect cover for traffickers. Local code inspectors aren't trained to spot signs of coercion. landlords rarely ask questions as long as rent is paid. Digital payment apps make laundering simple. Even consumers contribute, those who choose to look the other way when a $60 cash-only massage seems suspiciously cheap. Trafficking isn't sustained by monsters in shadows, it's sustained by ordinary people's indifference. The humanitarian side of the operation, the rescue, translation, medical care, and legal aid, is the part the public rarely sees, but it's where the real challenge begins. These women don't just need freedom, they need identities rebuilt from the ashes. Many are traumatized, isolated, and terrified of law enforcement after being told police would deport or punish them. Providing T visas and advocates is necessary, but recovery takes years, not weeks. The US government has historically struggled to follow through after such rescues. Shelters are underfunded, visas take months, and survivors often fall through bureaucratic cracks. Unless that system improves, rescue risks becoming a temporary reprieve, not a real liberation. The financial dimension of this story might be its most crucial and least emotionally understood layer. The script mentions 200 shell accounts and offshore transfers through Hong Kong and Macau. That's not just detail, it's the heart of the operation. Money laundering is the oxygen of trafficking. Without banks, accountants, and payment processors, the entire network collapses. Yet white-collar facilitators often escape punishment. America still treats sex trafficking as a vice issue, not a financial crime. That's why prosecutors using racketeering and organized crime statutes this time is significant. It acknowledges trafficking for what it really is, a billion-dollar enterprise that requires financial warfare to dismantle. If there's one takeaway, it's that this isn't an isolated Chinese problem, as some headlines might lazily imply. It's a human systems problem. Every global trafficking network operates by exploiting weak links, desperate migrants, greedy landlords, unregulated business fronts, and apathetic customers. Blaming one nationality misses the point. The demand exists in America, the supply simply follows it. The victims happen to be Chinese women today. Tomorrow it might be Thai, Venezuelan, or Ukrainian. Trafficking is opportunistic, not cultural. Operation Coast to Coast reveals something deeper than criminality. It exposes how a supposedly advanced society still hides medieval cruelty behind modern facades. Strip malls, smartphone apps, legal paperwork, they all mask exploitation that would have seemed barbaric a century ago. It's not just a law enforcement failure, it's a societal one. The same infrastructure that moves packages and payments instantly can also move people invisibly. We built the tools of globalization and then acted surprised when criminals used them better than we did. What should happen next is uncomfortable but necessary. States need to implement random inspections and mandatory background checks for all massage or wellness establishments. Banking oversight must tighten on small transfers that match laundering patterns. Immigration services need multilingual outreach so victims know they can seek help without deportation. And the public must stop treating human trafficking as a distant news story. It's not just happening in border towns, it's operating behind your neighborhood coffee shop. The federal agencies call this the beginning of a long-term campaign. Let's hope that's true, because what Operation Coast to Coast ultimately exposed isn't just a criminal network, it's a national blind spot. The women rescued from those parlors are the visible victims, but the invisible ones are the countless others still trapped by a system that values profit over humanity. Until that changes, until we stop pretending this is someone else's problem, the Hydra will keep growing new heads. In the end, this isn't a story about massage parlors or Chinese syndicates. It's a story about power, money, and the moral rot that grows when society stops paying attention. The question is not whether trafficking exists, we know it does. The question is whether we'll keep pretending we can't see it until the next raid forces us to look again.